What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Black American, channel of the free and the brave. Now, today we're going to get into a couple of things here. One, I'm going to go over more history, more accounts that prove that blacks helped found the Republican Party. And I'm going to also tie that into, of course, Nick Cannon, as you saw in the title and the thumbnail, because he also is finding out the true history of the Republicans and the Democrats. I want to give a shout out to the Angry Man because I am reacting to a video of his that helped me today. So go ahead and give his channel some love. I'll leave the link to the original video down below. And of course, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I'm trying to get up to 9,000 subscribers, and leave your comments down in the comment section, whether or not you agree, you don't, you're waking up, or you want to stay asleep. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Democrats don't care about black people, okay, and they don't care about people. They don't care about people of color, and the Republicans do, and that's the misconception.
And you know what? I agree with you 100%. People don't know that the Democrats are the party of the KKK.
Yep.
People don't know that the Republicans are the party that freed the slaves.
Yep.
I mean, both of you and I have some conservative views. You just a little bit more outspoken about it than I am. And I honestly don't subscribe to neither party. I rock with W.E.B. Du Bois when he said there's no such thing as two parties. It's just one evil party with two different names. So
yeah, I mean, look, listen, I'm not married to any party.
Right.
I voted for Donald Trump because we had two options, and he was definitely by far the better option for us. And as of now, I agree with a lot of things that he's doing.
Cleaning house.
Yeah.
He doing what he said he was going to do.
Guess what? If there's a time where I don't agree, I'll say I don't agree. Yeah.
We got the Gulf of America now. He's charging, he's like the club. He's charging a $5 million bottle service fee to get into the country.
I know. Listen.
Now, I know Angry Man is going to go ahead and give a little bit of his reaction. I'm going to keep some of that in there. I took out some so I can go ahead and give my reaction and do, you know, some fair use. And but as you can see, Nick Cannon is having a ride with Amber Rose. And we all know Amber Rose has switched from the Democratic Party and supports Trump and the Republican Party. And also you can see that Nick Cannon has been doing his research. He's found out the Democrats created the KKK. And just to let you guys know, it was created in response to the Republican Party, which was actually primarily blacks, from what I found out in my research. And you will be able to see that a little later in this video. No matter how you feel about it, that is the history, and you got to come to terms with it. And you cannot just be willfully ignorant and deny truth. You can if you want, but that's on you. Now let's listen to a little bit about what Angry Man has to say, and I'm gonna come in here and there and let you know facts and truth and my personal thoughts and opinions as well.
No, the internet is buzzing right now because many of them are extremely upset. They just made the assumption that Nick Cannon was, you know, left-leaning, Democrat, all of that. They knew where Amber Rose stood because of, you know, her endorsement for Trump and her participating in the, you know, the Republican National Convention and those different things. But when it comes to Nick Cannon, this was a shocker. This was a shocker for them. I don't even think, Nick, I don't know, bro. They might, we're about to see if the tide has really turned. We're about to see if the wind is actually blowing in a different direction. Because trust and believe, I guarantee you they are calling to cancel him right now. Because he just basically, look, in this video, he just basically said he's a Trump supporter.
Pretty much. And it doesn't take much for the left to consider you not a part of their own anymore. And even as you heard in the end of that video when he was riding with Amber Rose, he said he F's with Trump. Absolutely nobody on the left will allow anybody to say that and still look at them to be one of their own. No way. So I completely agree with the Angry Man here. I believe that the left will ultimately come out and try to create some smear campaign, cancel him. You know, of course, he's going to be called the typical names, the bootlickers, the traitor to your race, coons, blah, blah, blah. We've heard it all. Come up with new things because it honestly doesn't hurt us, because all we want to know is, do you know the facts and are you denying the facts? Because we're actually out here doing research now. We have all the tools we need to find out what is real out here and what's not. So it's pretty damning to find out that this evidence is true. That the Democrats are responsible for actually so many different atrocities beyond the KKK. They established slavery as being one of the highest components of how they wanted to progress and build this country. And then they actually started an entire civil war over that. Even after that, the emancipation of slaves, then in 1865, they created, like we said, the KKK in combat of the Republican Party, who was an anti-slavery party, and that was coming in in waves and gaining so much influence. So they had to find a way to combat that. And I'm going to give way more examples of how they tried to infiltrate certain areas of the country going forward. So let's continue.
Once I disclosed that I was Republican and the paper picked it up is when I started receiving hate mail from Democrats and people that told me that I was a sellout and that it was the tradition of Black people to be Democrat. Up until that time, I didn't really think much about it.
Yeah, and I just want to say, of course, now I have been getting all the sellouts, and someone just recently said, I don't love myself. I don't love Black people. But on my end, all I have to say is please come up with something more substantive than that, a better argument. Think about what you actually want to say to combat the way that people like me feel about politics and how we look at the world. Like, I'm being serious here, because there's absolutely no way that I do not like myself and I do not like my race. I think differently than what has the mindset that's captured most of my people in this country. But that does not mean that I hate them or I hate myself. It's honestly very odd and peculiar to say something like that without actually understanding the mindset that goes behind the way I think. Now, also, there's nothing wrong with criticizing my people. We hold, I won't say we hold, but we lead in many different areas of the country that are not areas that we actually want to lead in, as far as having the highest illiteracy rate. We have the highest crime rate per capita, highest baby deletion rate. We have so many of these different areas, outwardly public, just depraved behavior, just lack of public awareness about certain things and how we should conduct ourselves in public, and just social awareness and things of that nature. And when I see things like that, I'm going to call them out, not because I hate my people. It's just because I want my people to do better. Now let's move forward.
The Republican Party has either not told its story well, or its story has been hidden and contained by the liberal media.
That part.
There would be no Voting Rights Act if it hadn't been for Republican Senate and House members. There would not be the legislation we have today. It was Republicans who stood up for that stuff. The Democrats were the racists back in those days. It was a Democratic South, and those Democratic governors were the racists. But again, history has been kind of rewritten.
Yes. So Lyndon B. Johnson did sign the Civil Rights Act into place, but it wouldn't have gotten to his desk if 80% of the House 80% of Republicans did not vote for that particular bill to become an act and put into act, I should say. Democrats actively voted against it and had the longest filibuster in USA history to try to get it from being passed. And to this date, every civil rights movement was vehemently voted against by the Democrats. Now, the party switched. There's no evidence of that. Like I said, I've looked it up many a times. They try to say that the party switched in the early 1900s and the 60s. There's no actual real date that any party has switched. I did find out, to a lot of Democrats, of the apologists of the Democrats that do believe in this myth, I did find that there have been certain factions of the party that didn't think that way, or the Democratic way, that moved, but the entirety of the party has not changed. That needs to be made clear. Let's move forward.
The Republican Party in Texas was started on the 4th of July, 1867 in Houston, Texas, by 150 blacks and 20 whites. It was that way across the South. The Republican parties were started in the South by African Americans. In the state of Texas, two of our first three statewide Republican chairmen were African American.
Shout out to my home state of Texas.
The first 42 black legislators elected in Texas were all Republican. The first 112 black legislators elected in Mississippi were all Republican. The first 190 black legislators elected in South Carolina were all Republican. The first 41 in Georgia, the first 127 in Louisiana. So now you've got all these African Americans really stepping up and starting to gain political standing, political power. Now, you have Democrats on the other side who have been very racist.
Now, before he goes and talks about the Democrats, clearly, and I looked this up, there's other forms of evidence besides a video on YouTube, and we can see this one is dated. I don't know, it looked like late 80s, 90s or something like that. I don't know how much information that we have to give you before you can believe it, right? Because if this video was going to a Democrat and it was something that it was one of their beliefs, then they will 100% own it to be fact. So why can't you just look at something that you don't want to be true, recognize it is true, and then come to terms with that? That's called cognitive dissonance, and you need to break yourself from that. And like I said earlier, I'm not trying to sway anybody to vote a certain way. You know, I do what I do. I'm going to let you know that. But all I want you to do is to research and come to your own conclusions with the actual history, the facts. And a lot of times facts are hidden or not given in its entirety, but you got to dig deeper and you got to find out. And once things are presented to you, you have to accept them for what they are. And trust me, I've been on both sides of a lot of things, religions, politics, and one of the hardest things to do is change your thought process, but you have to become one with yourself and one reality in order to do that. Let's keep moving.
It's in their platforms. They support the Dred Scott decision. They think the fugitive slave law is great. They started a nation to keep slavery alive, very racist. And so now they're facing a situation where that these blacks are now their rulers, are now in office, are now U.S. senators, are now U.S. How do you stop that?
Exactly. How do you think the Democrats felt once the slaves were freed? And as you saw that photo there, they're in office in abundance. There were more black political figures than in the Republican Party than there were whites. And they gained so much popularity amongst people. So much. How do you think those Democrats felt about that? Because they wanted to keep black people in chains. And now those same black people are making laws and influencing the way the country goes. They couldn't have it. They could not have it. Let's keep going because he's cooking.
1866, Democrats themselves started the Ku Klux Klan. Its purpose was not to kill blacks. Its purpose was to take control and return Democrats to power. Their stated purpose in the KKK was to stop Republicans and restore Democratic control. Now, if you're looking for a Republican that you want to take care of, you can wipe out any black you want because they're 100% Republicans at that point in time. You can't wipe out any white. I mean, some whites might be Democrats. You got to be a little more judicious when you're wiping out whites. So what happens is the Ku Klux Klan starts attacking, not blacks, Republican conventions. For example, in New Orleans, in the Republican convention in Louisiana, the Klan joined with the New Orleans police, joined with the New Orleans mayor, Democrats. They attacked physically the convention in New Orleans, Republican convention. They killed 40 blacks, killed 20 whites. They wounded 150 others. 1868, they put out a push card in South Carolina, and it listed what they call the radical members of the South Carolina legislature. That push card's about the size of a baseball card. It was put up by the Klan. Klan put it out. It had the pictures of 63 legislators that needed to be wiped out in South Carolina. 50 of those legislators were black, 13 were white. Now, they were all 63 Republican. On the back of the card, it gave you the name of each legislator so you'd know who you're trying to kill. Congress starts...
Guys, think about how devious you have to be to create a department of your political party where their sole objective is to go out and eliminate figures of your opposing party. As you heard earlier, the Democratic Party, it was in their actual papers of Constitution, or however you want to put it, that the KKK was a part of them. It was a part. And I'm curious to look into history to see when they took that out, because Republicans ultimately ended up coming out and labeling the KKK as a domestic terrorist group. They were actively taking lives from political figures on the other side. You guys have to own that. It's no getting around it. No party switch. And I'm gonna move forward in a moment. I'm gonna tell you how the party has not changed, how the Democrats are still the same, and I'm gonna tell you how. They're doing it, and they're just pulling the wool over your eyes.
These hearings in this group called the Klan, and they have hearings, and so they bring in Democrat leaders that under oath from these Democrat states said, yes, the Klan belongs to our party. It's actually in Congress. 1872, the hearings, it's a 13-volume set of hearings in Congress. Unequivocally, Democrats say the Klan is ours and belongs to us. It's there to restore Democrat control in the southern states. Those guys who lived through it made it very clear.
So there you have it, historical fact. And I've already seen on X where they've already started posting the smear campaign on Nick Cannon, where they have a picture of him next to a picture of the Klan talking about, oh, Nick Cannon says the Democrat Party is the party of the KKK, right? So now the narrative is going to be, oh, Nick Cannon doesn't know what he's talking about. This is not historically correct. OK, he's just, saying things or whatever. You mark my words, the Democrats are going to come out and they are going to try their best to say that Nick Cannon is uninformed and he doesn't know what he's talking about. But here's my question. And by the way, I posted the link to the video I just showed you in the description. You can go watch the entire video, right?
Guys, make sure you go to the Angry Man's channel. Check it out. Check out his links he's talking about right there. He brings up a lot of good points, a lot of history, and he does it in his own Angry Man fashion.
And do your research. Don't just take my word for it. But the reality is this. If, in fact, the left and the Democrat Party is not the party of the Klan and not the party of racism, could you please explain to me why the moment that they started noticing African Americans and minorities joining ICE, all of a sudden these liberal lefties decide to hurl racial insults at them? In fact, this is literally the same thing.
That's because, and like I said, I was going to explain how the party hasn't changed. That's because Democrats are very opportunistic upon different voting blocks and different voting demographics within their party. Let me explain. So if you step out of their think tank, it doesn't matter your race, because Black Lives Matter as long as you think like them. Diversity only matters if you think like them. It's diversity of skin color, but not diversity of thought. You understand what I'm saying? So as soon as people like me, we start thinking for ourselves and we start researching and finding out history, which is something they don't want you to do, then you're all the racist terms and names that are out there that they try not to allow others to say, mainly the other side, which would be Republicans, because they, for whatever reason, have come to think that Republicans are the racist ones, right? And trust me, since I've been over here, I've seen no racism, and I've seen only racism from the left. Only from the left. And we're going to get into it a little bit more because we're going to wrap it up in just a moment. But I got a small collage of videos that Angry Man is about to play to show you that the Democratic Party is still the same party. They're just good about lying about it and good at manipulation.
With the exception of trying to take their life that they were doing back in the day. And so now what you're going to see is you're going to see everybody trying to say, oh, but the parties changed back in the day. If the parties changed back in the day, then you explain to me why the Democrats have been trying their best to hold on to the illegal immigrant population on the premise that they don't want to have to pick crops.
And you can't say they're not trying to hold on to it because Biden was allowing them to come in by the droves, by the millions, actually. So many came in, we couldn't even keep count. That is literally a threat to national security. We can't grow at that pace. The infrastructure isn't there. The logistics isn't there. The housing isn't there. The money isn't there. And I don't understand how they have put the idea in your heads that we as a country are supposed to just allow individuals unvetted illegally into the country. We are so successful because we did become a country of laws and rules, and people have to follow them. Now let's keep going here, and we're going to show you the hypocrisy of the left. Let's go.
Why are you shipping these immigrants up north? We need them to pick the crops.
Food is not reaching our table because those who pick the crops have been removed.
I mean, you're going to have vegetables rotting in the fields.
Our vegetables would rot in the ground if they weren't being picked by many illegal immigrants.
If you think your groceries are expensive now, wait until the farms are empty.
If you look at the food that's on your table, think about who picked it.
It's going to deport 20 million people, the people who pick your crops.
They come with regularity from Mexico usually to work in the fields.
Those immigrants that come into our country, they work the fields, something that we ain't done in a long time.
I can't wait until American women can't get blueberries for their smoothies.
Good news, red states. You can now pick your own fruits and vegetables in the blazing hot sun for $5 an hour.
The people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants.
What's going to happen here is that milk gets a lot higher, because I don't know if any of you have ever been in a dairy farm. It is god-awful work.
Have no immigration, then we would have no food on our plates. We would have nobody cleaning up in the hospitals.
And I have friends texting me like all morning. My gardener didn't show up. My housekeeper didn't show up. You're going to actually have to do some work around your house.
We're not going to have anybody around to wipe our asses because we don't have enough people.
If you kick every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?
Oh, that's no.
In the sense that, no. You know what I mean? Like, when I'm saying that.
Hoo-wee. Talk about racist. Talk about racist. First of all, if you really look into the numbers, there's an estimated 6% of illegal immigrants that actually are on farms picking food or milking cows. So 95%, 96% of farmers are actually American born. They're Americans. So this is a huge slap in the face to the hard work that those men and women do out here on farms. Absolutely insane. And also it's very disrespectful and racist to the Latinos to think that they are just cornered, pigeonholed into a specific type of very low wage work. You know, granted, I do believe that we do need to get the illegals out of the country. But again, this goes into the mindset that the Democrats still have the same mentality, because if you rewind back to the 1800s, 1700s, they had the same mentality about slaves. Who is going to build our buildings? Who is going to pick our cotton? Who is going to harvest our sugar? Who is going to milk our cows? you know, and I'm sure they had the same manipulative tactics that they do today. You know, and they've found a way to get people on their side. Of course, things were way more brutal back in the day. We have made progression as far as becoming way more civil about things. That's where they're able to manipulate people and play on your heartstrings and play the whole illegal immigrant thing as they're just looking for asylum, a better life, things of that nature. And now they have you voting for an entire block of people that are coming to actually erase the blacks, because they're actually seeing people like me and many channels like me that are waking up, and we're moving away from the left. So who is there going to be to replace that voting block? Who's going to be there? Remember, Republicans were founded, I can say that with actual conviction, by mostly blacks. And we appreciate all you whites that also were on our side in creating the party of anti-slavery, the party that looks for the rights for all Americans, not just particular voting blocks that they can manipulate and find votes until they use them up and don't need them anymore, and find another group of people that they can manipulate and squeeze votes out of. Because when you become conservative, you want to conserve the country as being upright, stand up, righteous for all Americans, not just particular ones. Make sure you research. Guys, I can't say that enough. Again, I'm not trying to get you over to the Republican side, but I just want you to open your eyes, research thoroughly, not just a Google search. Find out information. Libraries are out there. Encyclopedias, find books, find historians, actually people who study this and do this for a living, who have PhDs, things of that nature, people who are unbiased about what's going on politically, and just study history objectively. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I'm trying to get up to 9,000 subscribers. Leave your comments down in the comment section, whether or not you agree or you don't. Either way, let's have a conversation. This is the Black American channel of the free and the brave.